Your heart just stopped. 1 second it was beating steadily, pumping life through every vein and artery in your body, and now, nothing. That fast, that simple. No dramatic music, no slow fade. Just silence where there used to be rhythm. This is second zero. And what unfolds over the next 60 seconds and beyond is something that science is only now beginning to truly understand. Because it turns out that the moment you die might be the most alive, the most aware, and the most electrically active your brain has ever been. Imagine this for a moment. You're living your ordinary day. Maybe you're walking down the street, sipping coffee, laughing with a friend, or simply sitting quietly thinking about tomorrow's plans. Your heart has been with you through every joy, every heartbreak, every quiet moment of existence, beating roughly 100,000 times a day, over 35 million times a year, without you ever having to ask it to. And then, without warning, it stops. The pump fails. The 5 liters of blood that were circulating, delivering oxygen and nutrients to every corner of your being, suddenly come to a near standstill. No more flow, no more delivery. The entire orchestra of your body loses its conductor. But here's the profound part. Your brain doesn't know it yet, not immediately. For the first precious few seconds, it's still running on the residual oxygen, lingering in the blood trapped in your vessels. Your neurons continue firing. The thoughts you were having, the emotions you were feeling, they linger. You are still technically you, still conscious in some fading capacity. That window is narrow, maybe 10 seconds at most, but in those seconds, a lifetime of identity holds on. Around the 10-second mark, things begin to shift. Your brain, that incredible organ that makes up only about 2% of your body weight, yet consumes roughly 20% of all the oxygen you take in, starts to sense the crisis. The deliveries have stopped. The cerebral cortex, the outer layer responsible for higher thinking, self-awareness, decision-making, and the very essence of what we call you, begins to power down. This is usually the moment when, from the outside, an observer would say, "You've lost consciousness." Your eyes stop processing new images. Sounds fade from your ears, your body goes limp. To the world, you look gone, but from the inside, the story is far more complex and mysterious. In 2023, neuroscientist Dr. Jimo Borjigin and her team at the University of Michigan published groundbreaking research that challenged everything we thought we knew about the dying process. They studied 4 comatose patients as they were taken off life support. The expectation was a gradual fade, a quiet winding down of electrical activity, like a battery slowly draining to zero. What they observed in 2 of the 4 patients was the opposite. A sudden, massive surge. Gamma wave activity, those high-frequency brain waves linked to heightened consciousness, memory retrieval, intense focus, problem-solving, and even mystical or dreamlike states, exploded across the brain. In one case, the surge reached levels up to 300 times higher than baseline. This wasn't random electrical noise or chaotic dying spasms. It was organized, structured, and concentrated particularly in the temporo-parieto-occipital junction, a region associated with visual processing, self-awareness, and even out-of-body experiences reported in many near-death accounts. Borjigin herself described the surge as crazy high, noting the remarkable coherence and connectivity between different brain areas. This finding echoed earlier animal studies from her lab and others, where similar gamma surges were seen shortly after cardiac arrest. It suggests that in the face of oxygen deprivation, the brain doesn't simply shut off. In some cases, it seems to rally, perhaps unlocking or amplifying processes we barely understand. Think about what that might feel like, not as cold data, but as a lived human experience, a final, vivid burst of inner light when the outer world goes dark. For decades, people revived from clinical death have described experiences that align eerily with this kind of brain activity. Bright, warm lights, a sensation of floating above their own body, looking down at the scene with surprising clarity, a profound peace that washes away all fear and pain. And then there's the life review, one of the most consistent and moving elements of near-death experiences, NDEs. You've probably heard the phrase, "my life flashed before my eyes." Many imagine it as a highlight reel, weddings, graduations, major achievements, but survivors almost universally correct that assumption. It's not the big moments that dominate. It's the ordinary ones, the seemingly insignificant fragments of daily life that your brain had quietly stored away. One well-documented case involved a young man resuscitated after cardiac arrest. In his life review, he saw a vivid image of a white cat sitting on a staircase in an unfamiliar building. He had no conscious memory of it. After recovering, he described the details to his mother, the layout of the apartment, the exact staircase, the cat's appearance. She was stunned. They had lived in that exact building when he was only 14 months old. A neighbor had a white cat. He was a toddler at the time. How could his brain retain such a precise memory from such an early age, inaccessible in normal waking life? This raises one of the deepest questions neuroscience still grapples with. Are all our memories truly still in there? Every fleeting glance, every casual conversation, every unnoticed sensory detail from infancy to now? Does the dying brain, in its final powerful surge, somehow gain access to this vast archive? We don't have definitive answers yet, but the gamma wave data hints at extraordinary memory retrieval and heightened awareness rather than mere shutdown. Let's pause and reflect on the human side of this. If you've ever lost someone suddenly or faced your own health scare, you know how fragile life feels. These accounts from survivors aren't just clinical curiosities. They're deeply moving testimonies that change how people live afterward. Many report losing their fear of death entirely. They return with a renewed appreciation for small acts of kindness, for presence with loved ones, for the beauty hidden in routine days. The ordinary Tuesday afternoons, the quiet mornings with coffee, the unspoken hugs, these are the moments that apparently matter most when everything else strips away. Now let's return to the timeline inside the body while the brain may be experiencing this surge. Around 30 seconds after the heart stops, oxygen levels in the blood plummet critically. Your 37 trillion cells begin to notice the crisis. They switch from efficient aerobic respiration to a backup anaerobic mode. This produces some energy, but also builds up lactic acid, leading to increasing acidity. Muscles relax completely. Your jaw may drop, eyelids loosen, and if you are standing, gravity has already claimed you. Pupils dilate and fix, no longer responding to light. From the outside, it looks like the end. Yet inside, the story continues. Dr. Sam Parnia, a leading resuscitation researcher at NYU Langone, has spent decades investigating consciousness during cardiac arrest through the AWARE studies. The AWARE 2 study, published in 2023, followed hundreds of patients across multiple hospitals. Remarkably, about 40% of survivors who could be interviewed reported some perception of consciousness during the period they were clinically dead. No heartbeat, no measurable vital signs in the traditional sense. Around 20% described structured, recalled experiences of death, clear thoughts, memories, and a sense of awareness. A smaller but significant percentage reported full visual and auditory perceptions. These weren't vague dreams or hallucinations in the fuzzy sense. Some patients could describe events happening around them during resuscitation with surprising accuracy, even while their brains should have been offline. One consistent theme is the feeling of not being alone. Many encounter deceased loved ones, grandparents, parents, friends, who seem to appear as guides or welcomers. It's not your time yet, some report hearing. Others describe being shown scenes or feeling overwhelming love and peace. Science debates whether these are protective hallucinations created by a stressed brain or something more profound. What the data consistently shows, however, is that for many, the experience of dying is not the terrifying void we fear. It is often described as peaceful, even beautiful, not empty darkness, but a transition filled with meaning. At the 60-second mark, cellular damage is mounting but not yet irreversible for many tissues. This is still within the critical window where successful resuscitation is possible. Brain cells can typically survive 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen before permanent injury begins, though this varies with conditions like body temperature. At 1 minute, you're in a profound biological limbo. Not fully alive in the conventional sense, but not irreversibly gone either. Your body temperature hasn't dropped much. Skin begins to pale slightly as blood settles. Inside cells, membranes weaken from acidity, and enzymes start leaking, the early stages of autolysis where cells begin self-digestion. But most cells remain structurally intact, still holding potential. This window is why CPR and defibrillation save lives every day, restore circulation quickly, and many people return with minimal long-term damage. Hospitals worldwide witness these miracles regularly. Yet if intervention doesn't come, this minute marks the beginning of the irreversible journey. The question lingers, what is the brain doing in these final moments? Is it fighting desperately, or is it releasing us with a final gift of clarity and review? The combination of Borjigin's surge data and Parnia's consciousness studies suggest the latter may be closer to the truth for some. The brain turns on in ways we never expected when the body turns off. Think about the implications for how we live. Every second you have right now is a second someone else has already lost. The people who come back from these experiences rarely talk about wanting more wealth, status, or achievements. They speak of wanting more time, more presence with family, more attention to the small joys, more love given freely. They realize that the moments we often rush through or take for granted are the very ones that replay in the end. Your brain has been recording everything. Not just the milestones, but the texture of your child's laughter, the way sunlight fell across the kitchen table on an ordinary morning, the quiet comfort of a friend's silence during hard times, the smell of rain on pavement, the feel of holding hands, all of it stored, perhaps waiting for that final surge to bring it back in vivid, emotional color. This understanding invites us to live differently today. Slow down, notice more, love harder, forgive quicker, because none of us knows when our heart will take its last beat. The science of dying as it emerges doesn't have to be morbid. It can be profoundly life-affirming. It reminds us that consciousness, whatever its full nature, may be more resilient and mysterious than we ever imagined. As we explore these frontiers, researchers continue pushing boundaries. Studies on near-death experiences from thousands of cases worldwide show common patterns across cultures. The tunnel, the light, the life review, encounters with the deceased, and lasting transformations. Skeptics point to brain chemistry, endorphins, DMT, oxygen deprivation effects. Believers and open-minded scientists see evidence that consciousness might not be entirely confined to the brain. The truth likely lies in a nuanced space between, where biology and something deeper intersect. In the end, what matters most isn't debating the metaphysics, but how this knowledge touches your daily life. Cherish the ordinary. Record your own life review now by being fully present. Tell people you love them. Pursue what brings real meaning. Because if the dying brain does play back our memories, let it be a beautiful film, one filled with connection, kindness, wonder, and love. The first 60 seconds after the heart stops are just the beginning of a process that can last minutes longer in terms of cellular viability. But for the person experiencing it, those moments may feel timeless, expanded, illuminating. A final act of grace from the organ that defined your entire life. We stand at the edge of understanding. Science is peeling back layers, but the full picture of death and what lies beyond remains one of humanity's greatest mysteries. What we do know now is enough to change us. Dying, for many, appears not to be an end in terror, but a passage that the brain meets with remarkable activity, potential peace, and a deep review of the life you created. So today, while your heart still beats strong, honor it. Live in a way that when that final minute comes, as it does for all of us, you can meet it not with regret, but with a sense of having truly lived. The small moments are the big ones. Your brain knows it, and in the end, it just might show you.